everybody has this ability. They're brought into the world with this ability as children. And usually what happens, the children have their imaginary friend and whatnot, and they talk to the cat, and they talk to the dog, and they talk to trees. And I just never lost that. The other children will close it off if people admonish them for talking about they had a spiritual experience with a cat. So what I do is I've just always had it, and there's just some things that I just know ahead of time. I've had premonitions. The priest, when I was a child, I knew that he was going to pass. I had a dream of him that he was walking down the steps of a plane to the tarmac. He grabbed his left shoulder and fell over. 2 days later, when we went to church, we found out that he died of a heart attack just after coming home from vacation. So, and I remember saying to my father, I knew this, Dad, and we were in church. So he's like, talk about it later. So we had these kind of things, right? But it also comes through me from my Irish background. I have a grandmother that saw ghosts and whatnot, and there's been lots of that in my lineage. My mother had an experience when I was a child. I was just a year old, just a little over a year old, and she always said my guardian angel whispered to her or told her, go. I was running up the stairs of a very large slide, and there were handrails all the way up, except for when you got to the top. And I was just over a year old, and I was capable of climbing, but she could see that I was going to fall back. And she started running and just got there to catch me. So I think my parents had their own experiences, so it was not admonished as a child, and they allowed us our spiritual growth. One of the things is I'm very curious, but I'm also very skeptical. My background before I've started telling people about my spiritual gifts is I am a registered massage therapist, and I have been hiding in massage therapy for a long time, allowing my abilities to go to a certain place and know where something is to assist me in treating that person. But if I don't know something, I learn. I'm constantly learning. I have about 20 textbooks beside my bed. My husband always asks if I'm going to ever finish them. It's that I have to know how it works. If somebody tells me this works on this, for instance, I have lots of times people coming to me with laser therapy things, and I'll ask the salesperson, well, how does it work? Well, it reduces inflammation. It does this thing, that thing. But I want to know, how does it interact with the cell to do that? And so I never, ever accept anything until I have corroborating information from multiple sources over a period of time. It isn't like Oprah's Book of the Month Club, 3 people told me this week, so it must be true. It's more like I got it from this source, and then I looked at it from this source. Oh, and this one too. And then you start to see in the textbook who references the other person's books in their scientific papers. So yes, so I am a registered massage therapist. I also do something called visceral manipulation, working on the organs and all their sliding, gliding surfaces. And through illness, injury, dehydration, stress, and surgery, they can get stuck. And so we work on mobilizing them. I also do a technique called craniosacral therapy, working on the membranes surrounding the brain and spinal cord by using the bones as handles to stretch those membranes to release tensions and torsions. I also do a technique called neural manipulation, and it releases direct nerve restrictions, and it has a global effect on the whole nervous system. So I like to make sure whatever I'm doing spiritually also corroborates with all of those things as well. When you start to study, the more you study of science, the more spiritual it becomes. And the more you study of spirituality, the more scientific it gets. And you've come to find that they sort of meet in the middle. We have a physical field of our body. We have an emotional field of our body. And we have, you know, you might have heard of auras, right? And so what's happening close in the aura has to do with what's happening physically and physiologically in your body and the temperature. And then the next one is what's happening in your emotional centers. So I'll explain a little story about myself. So when I was a child, I'm the youngest of 3 children, and my brother and my sister would walk me down the street, my brother on my right and my sister on my left. And they were much taller than me. And so what they would do is they would sandwich me. So they go 1, 2, 3, sandwich. They would do it non-verbally, give each other the eye so I didn't know it was coming, and I'd get crushed in the shoulders. So this hasn't happened since I was 9 years old. And I probably hadn't thought of it since I was about 15 years old. But a few Christmases ago, I was at my mother's place for Christmas, and there were 11 of us around a table, and we're all kind of squished in together. So I'm sitting in a folding chair, and my brother's sitting on my right and my sister's sitting on my left. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting up kind of shoulder to shoulder with them with about that much space in between. And I start feeling anxious, and I have no idea what it's about. And I actually sit back a little bit, and I don't feel the anxiousness. And I'm going, what's this about? And I sit forward and I feel it again. And I recognize it's sandwich. And so I said to my brother and sister, please don't sandwich me. And they went, huh? And then they went, ha ha ha. And they did, gently, because we're all adults now and they don't want to hurt themselves or me. But that's what they did. And that anxiousness feeling went away. But that was in my energy field, being in close proximity with the people that would do that to me. And it can happen not just with people that would do, but anybody who would remind you of that as well. So if they wore a certain cologne, you ever meet somebody and you have no idea why you don't like them? There's no reason for you not to like them, but you don't like them? You're connecting energetically with something that they remind you of. Oh, that is so easy, connecting with other people's souls and energy. You get to feel who they are at the deepest level, not the facade that they put on, but who they are. And I'm telling you, there are so many absolutely wonderful, beautiful people in the world.